Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Mike, and I am joined by my co-host, Michael Hall and Corey Sanchez. Before we introduce you guys our special guest, just so you guys know, our dearly beloved leader, Kyle. He ended his Ironman streak today. He is not here, so shout out to you, Kyle. You can pick back up as soon as you get back around here, but, right now, old dad's in control. So just so you guys know, the Burgundy Zone is brought to you guys by Listen Frederick. You can find out more by visiting listenfrederick.com. And we are joined by my best friend in the entire world, ladies and gentlemen, Logan Paulsen. Logan, how you doing today?
Great. Really fired up to be here.
Yeah, I can tell, guys. We got a lot of energy today. It's a little different, but we're gonna get things right. All right, so Logan. So as you know, there's been a lot of buzz around the NFL draft, particularly one safety that is being mocked to fall to Washington at number 11. That is Kyle Hamilton. If he is the pick, if he somehow does fall, what would he bring to this defense?
Yeah, I think he's a guy who plays with tremendous instincts. Obviously, he's a big dude. I think he's more of a hitter than like a pure tackler, but he's got really, really fantastic instincts that I think help him overcome some of his maybe measurable speed deficiencies. Like when you watch him on tape, I was kind of questioning, like, I wonder how fast he's actually going to run. Kind of got this longer loping stride, but he makes plays all over the field. He plays kind of their overhang guy. In college football, they all have these overhang players now, which is the person that plays the field. There's a lot of grass there. Not great in man-to-man coverage, in my opinion. When I watch him, I know some people love him as a man-to-man player, but to me, he's kind of a box player. Think more like Cam Chancellor. I think a lot of people thought he was going to be like this game-changing guy who can play in the post, guy who can play in the field. He does do that. I think he's more of that Buffalo nickel role for this team. Great physicality, great instincts, heck of a football player from the tape. You just wonder how that's going to transfer based on some of the speed questions that I have about him.
Right, yeah. And one thing, real quick before you go, Hall, it does seem like I know his 40 time was timed 4.59 at the combine, and then even lower at his pro day at 4.70. But if you watch the tape, I mean, you're a former player. Game tape
Yep.
does seem to be a little bit, or game speed does tend to be a little bit different than track speed, right?
Yeah, and he does do a really nice job of, like I said, his anticipation, his instincts are off the chart, and so that'll help you overcome some of that, time speed issue. I also think he does a really nice job of kind of knowing the type of athlete he is and kind of rolling into stuff. He's not really kind of that guy that's going to keep his feet planted then break on the ball. He's kind of like got a little soccer player vibe to him in the sense he's always kind of moving his feet, shuffling around, so it's easier to accelerate from those positions. And I would imagine that helps a taller athlete like him with those acceleration mechanics. But yeah, again, those are some issues. And, in terms of liking the pick at 11, that's something that I'm a little on the fence about at this point, because I do think there are other safeties that you might like later in the second round. I don't know if you want to talk about that now or we can talk about that later. But Brisker from Penn State is a guy that I like a lot, and I think he brings a tremendous value. He's very physical. And then the other guy that I like a ton is Jalen, I think his name's Petrie from Baylor, who is to me like that nickel kind of overhang. He plays a little linebacker for them. He's got much better coverage skills. He plays with a nice physicality. And I think they bring a little bit more kind of conventional skill set to a role that's only going to be on the field about 50% of the time.
Right, definitely. And to kind of piggyback off that question, you kind of answered the first half of it, but in a heavy offensive league, obviously Washington's gone defense for the first round pick the past 5 years. If they go Hamilton or maybe a guy like Sauce Gardner or Stingley's there at 11 and they pick him, would you want them to maybe pick a guy like Sauce Gardner or Stingley or maybe Hamilton at 11? Or do you think that they need to go and get as many offensive weapons around Carson Wentz as possible for that first round pick?
Yeah, I think that's really a good question. Kind of a loaded question in the sense that I think Sauce Gardner is probably the second best defensive player just by grade in the draft. So if he falls to you at 11, I think the value there is too good to pass up. Obviously, Stingley, I think his 2019 film is, stuff of legend at this point, and rightfully so. He played pretty outstanding. But that guy, you haven't seen that guy for 2 years. So, I would be very reluctant to take Stingley at 11 just from a character standpoint. And I'm not saying I don't think he's a bad guy necessarily, but on film, he's making a lot of business decisions, which is something that if I was a coach would drive me nuts because, if things aren't going well, is he going to kind of throw in the towel for you? And I don't think you want that, especially given this organization's history. This is going to be a tough division this year. You need a guy who's going to be in there and fight. So if he's there, I would have my reservations about him despite his tremendous talent. But I think if Sauce Gardner's there, I think you have to take him just because of the value. But again, like you brought up the point where you want to add as many offensive playmakers as you can around Carson Wentz, because you look at when he's been most successful in his career. I'm sure this has been well documented at this point. It's 2016-17 era where Deshaun Jackson, Ertz, Alshon Jeffrey, all these guys that are kind of tremendous playmakers of that era. And I think adding more pieces around him definitely is going to help his game and definitely going to help him improve, because that's true of any quarterback, outside those kind of top 5 guys. But I definitely think it's something to consider for him at 11.
And Logan, kind of at 11 right there, you talk about those weapons. Is there a wide receiver that has a grade that's high enough to take at 11? Or is this a situation where you get into maybe you're talking about trading back to maybe even recoup that pick that you lost in the Carson Wentz trade? Is there anybody that just jumps out, especially wide receiver, that's like, hey, pick me at 11. You get good value there.
Yeah, so kind of 2-part question there. One, I would say, is if you can trade back, you should trade back, even if you have kind of what you think is a blue chipper there. I don't think there's any true blue chippers in this draft. I mean, outside of Aiden Hutchinson, maybe Aquanu out of NC State, and Sauce Gardner. Like I said, those are kind of my 3 guys that I have a lot of, I really enjoy their film. I really think they're high quality players. I do have some reservations about Kayvon Thibodeau. But again, if he falls to you at 11, you might consider going that way because he's such a tremendous talent. But offensively, kind of getting to your question, I think that to me, my number 1 receiver is Wilson at Ohio State. And I think he's probably going to go to Atlanta at 8, I would guess. And but I think that's okay, because my true number 1 receiver, the number 1 receiver in my heart, is Williams out of Alabama. And I think he's got the guy who's got the opportunity to be a truly kind of game-changing prospect in this draft. I understand he tore his ACL, which is unfortunate, but in terms of game-breaking speed, big playability, physical toughness, character, he plays special teams, he blocks, he is a Logan Paulsen football player through and through. So if he's there at 11, which I think he will be, I would definitely take a swing at it despite the ACL, because I definitely think of all the receivers in this class, he's got the chance to be something truly special. I know he didn't run a 40, but I think if you look at him and compare him to the other guys in the group, you say, man, this has got, I don't want to say Tyreek Hill because he gets that comparison because of the speed, but that kind of game-changing ability. Maybe Deshaun Jackson's a better comp for him, that kind of explosive playmaker. And I think that's too good to pass up, especially with a strong arm guy like Carson Wentz. It allows you to bump Curtis Samuel inside. And, he's going to be situational probably, especially coming off the ACL. But I think I'm thinking, what is this team going to look like, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? And I want a guy who's going to be, the Jalen Waddle, one of those guys who's going to be a game-changing, explosive presence for this offense that plays football in the right way. So I can't say enough good things about my evaluation of him. His tape's awesome. I mean, obviously he fights the football a little bit, but again, the toughness, the character, the athleticism, I think it's too good to pass up in terms of the most explosive offensive weapon in this class.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, and I mean, you're completely right. I mean, a deep threat like that being 6'2" with that kind of speed, I think you can really bring a completely different element to the offense. And the wide receiver position is weird because if you ask 5 different analysts, you'll get 5 different answers about their top 5 wide receivers. I mean, you're starting to see now Jahan Dotson come up at number 5 and replace Treylon Burks. It used to kind of be a consensus. But somebody who I know you've touched on who was working out today is Drake London. What is something that you think he could bring to this team? I know he's been a popular pick to the Commanders in a lot of mock drafts. And what are his strengths?
Yeah, so Drake London's a really interesting guy, a guy that I like his tape of quite a bit. Again, we talked about the physicality of the position with Williams, and I think Drake London has the same kind of approach. They use him in a very interesting way. He does a lot of cross tips, kind of these physical blocks. He blocks on screens, and you see that the game's important to him with the way he catches the football, the way he finishes runs. I think people see him as probably a true X receiver, but the tape doesn't necessarily support that. They kind of line him up. In a 3-by-1, he's not the guy over there by himself. He's the guy that's on the inside of that 3-by-1, kind of like a big tight end. Think like Marcus Colston, Larry Fitzgerald later in his career, a guy that works the middle of the field a little bit more, and he has a nice skill set for it. Really nice foot speed, quickness. To me, when I watch him, he reminds me a ton of Jordan Reed, honestly. Not the fastest guy in the world, but good short area quickness, a guy in that kind of mold. So everyone compares him to Mike Evans or whatever, but I don't think he's got the same type of horsepower. He doesn't have the same turnover. He doesn't have the same stride length. It's more Jordan Reed, win with short area quickness, kind of body at the catch point. He does have a tremendous catch radius, this kind of basketball ability to elevate and jump over and contort his body in kind of a T. Higgins-esque type of way. And so I think there is value there. I just think people, when you draft somebody that high, you're looking for like an X receiver, but he's not, in my estimation, he's not that guy. He's a guy that you got to kind of move around a little bit, plays in the slot, can win you some one-on-one situations if the matchup's correct, but he's not Julio. He's not Mike Evans. He's not Jamar Chase. He's not Odell Beckham back in the day. That's not him. He's a little different cut of receiver. And I think that's important for fans to internalize when you're talking about him. Again, love his tape. I don't know how he ran today. Does anyone know how he ran? I was going to check.
He did run. I think he said he wasn't going to run his pro day.
I mean, that's my biggest question mark with him, because he looks like he might legitimately run a 4.7. So that's the thing that has me pushing him down my board a little bit. Right. Just based on the film. Again, I like all the things about the film, but the top end speed is something that I think you need. You have to have it.
Right. One real fast.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And sticking with the offense, it seems that Washington has been bringing in a lot of these running backs, one of the kind of the higher graded running backs in this draft. I know you're a guy like me that was kind of high on AG, how versatile he was, and he was kind of poised for a breakout year. Do you see them maybe possibly spending a draft pick on a running back? And I know that they brought back J.D. McKissick. They still got Patterson, and obviously they got AG. So do you think they need to add another running back as well?
I mean, I personally don't think so. I think you want to add a running back just to add some depth. I think Patterson could probably be upgraded. Like, no offense to him in his tremendous rookie season, but I think you probably feel better about him on the practice squad and in kind of an up and down type role. I mean, whether that maybe he's on practice squad one week, you bring him up for some special teams value the next week, whatever that may be. So I think that that's something to consider with the running back position. In terms of the guys they're looking at, I really like the kid from Michigan State. His name escapes me at the moment, but he's got kind of that like kind of movement skills, one cut ability. He's terrible in pass protection though. Yeah, so if you're going to bring him in here, like, what is his role going to be? He's just going to kind of get some game plan touches. I don't know. So I think, running backs are always really tough to evaluate, and it's tough in terms of adding value, because I almost think you're better adding an offensive lineman to kind of up the value of the backs that you already have. And I think that's important for fans to consider. I think everyone gets super caught up in the running back situation, but it's more, in my opinion, strengthening that offensive line with good decisions and good selections and good free agency moves that elevates the backfield and elevates your quarterback play.
You kind of shift from the offensive backfield to the kind of the defensive backfield. Well, the mid part of it with the linebackers. It last year going into the regular season, they brought 4 linebackers on the active roster. Mm-hmm. Do you see them maybe going linebacker day 2 in a situation, maybe day 3? And who should we keep our eyes out on? Could be a new linebacker for the Commanders.
Right. Well, I think there's kind of this core of linebackers in the second round, and maybe a lot of them are going to sneak into the first. And it just seems like a little rich based on things that like Martin Mayhew has been saying about the linebacker position and their understanding and belief in Cole Holcomb, right? There's the kid from Wisconsin. Gosh, I can't remember his name at the moment, but big kind of physical guy, would help with run support. He'll be around in the second round. Muma from Wyoming. Troy Anderson from Montana State is probably my favorite of that second tier group. And then pretty much all of the Georgia linebackers. It's kind of funny. Everyone talks about Nakobe Dean, but, Trey Walker is an outstanding football player, good length. I think probably got a little bit more physical upside than Nakobe Dean when you just watch his tape. So all those guys will probably be in the mix there. But again, talk about just like football philosophy or whatever. We talked about 11 and going safety. Someone that I think would be really, really interesting at 11, I think he just makes the team better right away, is a guy like Jordan Davis. And I think the reason I say that is because I've never evaluated somebody who's so good at like just eating double teams for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And when you talk about things that Jamin Davis struggle with, things that Cole Holcomb struggle with, we're talking about block destruction techniques, and all of a sudden that becomes less important when you have a guy like that in there. All of a sudden it allows Deron Payne to take on a more kind of third down pass rush role, which I think is something that he wants. I think it's something he'd be very good at. And I think it just strengthens the whole kind of middle of your defense with one pick at 11. Obviously that seems a little rich, but instead of having to go linebacker, maybe you go a guy like Travis Jones out of UConn, a big kind of run stuffer, guys to keep those guys a little bit cleaner in the back end allow them to run on the football. I mean, Jamin Davis is a tremendous athlete. You're not going to find a better athlete in this class specifically. So why not let him be what he can be? And maybe that's what that looks like, adding some kind of big run stuffing, rotational first and second down pieces on that defensive line to help that back end group and to help your internal defensive line rotation get more out of Allen, get more out of Payne with a pick like that.
Right. Yeah. Logan, now we only got a few more for you. First, to prove to your point, I mean, I think people are kind of really overlooking how big of a need defensive tackle is. I mean, only having John Allen and Deron Payne, you're going to need somebody that's going in there and rotating with them. I mean, they're not on the field every single snap. But you have been working with a lot of tight ends, and who knows a tight end position better than you? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'd put you.
Yeah, right. That's good. I like good segue.
Anybody. Yeah, that's right. I was going to pull a Kyle, and I was going to go absolutely. So anyway, because Kyle always says absolutely. But who are your top three? And I'm sorry, tight ends is also a position that's starting to get mocked to the Commanders a lot now. I think them trading for Carson Wentz has a lot to do with that, with his success, and then people realizing Logan Thomas might not be available for early on in the season. Right. Who are your top three tight ends, and who do you think makes the most sense for the Commanders?
I think it just depends on what you identify as a team need here. And so I think when you look at Washington specifically, John Bates is kind of that blocking Y, a guy who plays with a nice physicality. So is that paramount for the draft? And because there are a whole bunch of guys like that, the kid from Ohio State, Jelani Woods is like that, kind of bigger body, physical guys at the line of scrimmage who can help elevate your run game. And maybe that's what you're looking for. Because I think, a guy like Jelani, we've talked about him before, has a lot of upside and someone you feel really good about, as kind of growing into something more than that traditional blocking Y. Or you go like Charlie Kolar out of Iowa State, a guy who's got nice understanding of pass game, maybe not the best athlete in the world, but shows a good physicality in the run game. I personally think you want to go kind of more playmaker. And I think it's interesting, a guy that I don't love his film of because I don't really know how he fits, but a guy like Trey McBride is interesting because if Logan Thomas does get healthy, then Trey McBride can take kind of that F move role. Logan can play a little bit inside, just adds a weapon inside. Again, I think he's going to be gone in the second round at a price point that is probably too much in terms of draft pick value. But I would probably move on from that. Greg Dulcich is another one everyone's talking about. I think, again, he's going to be gone early in the second round. So I think you kind of wait it out, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round. There are going to be some guys there that have some skills. It's not a great year for tight end if you're really, really hunting for one. But if you want to like kind of rotational depth piece that can grow into something more, I think this might be a time to take a look. You got Bates in the fourth last year. I do think this is a kind of a similar situation, maybe fourth or fifth round, find someone that you really like, find someone that can add depth and can hold down the fort until Logan Thomas gets healthy.
Right. And last question for you, Logan, but I will say you're right about that. There's no Kyle Pitts, but there are some very good guys, as you mentioned, and a lot of it just depends on who you were drafted by. But what are your feelings for draft night? What do you think happens night one? Do the Commanders pick at 11? If so, who is the pick, or do they trade back? What happens?
Yeah, I think that's the $1 million question. I think when you want to trade back, there needs to be someone willing to trade up. And who would you trade up for this year? And I can't really think of anybody worthwhile because usually it's a quarterback. And unless you've identified one of those guys as a true blue chip prospect that's going to change your team day one, I'm not sure that there's a lot of value there, right? I mean, even the tackles, I've talked to a whole bunch of people around the league, and those are probably kind of the most surefire picks outside of Aiden Hutchinson. And everyone's kind of like, they're not as good as the two guys even were last year. So, why are you going to mortgage your future on someone who's kind of middle of the road? And everyone knows that there's extra value in the back end of this draft. I think the one team that's interesting to trade up is the New Orleans Saints because they've all added that draft capital for this year. I don't know. And I'm working on some stuff for, Washington football team today and Commanders and stuff like that. And in my research, I'm just kind of like, I kind of think Malik Willis would fall to them without them even trading up, which is kind of a crazy thought, Malik or Kenny Pickett, because I don't think either one of them is worth the top 10 pick, quite frankly. I think Carolina is going to get really, really desperate and kind of make a move. But again, that's desperation. That's not good, sound football decision-making. And Malik Willis has the most upside. So he's the piece that people may consider moving up for. But again, that's tough, man. It's tough because even him, I could talk myself out of in 2 seconds from doing something like that. So if they do If they do trade back, that's excellent. This is a very deep draft class that a lot of positions in need for this football team. You're going to be able to get starters in the second, third, fourth round. I think kind of no problem if you're making good draft evaluations. But in terms of picking at 11, I mean, I go back to kind of what I said earlier, and I think Williams out of Alabama is the guy that you want to pick. I think he's the game changer offensively for you. And I think I have my reservations about Kyle Hamilton. I have my reservations about Derek Stingley. I don't think you need edge rusher. There would be great value there at 11 in edge rusher if you needed one. I think Johnson out of Florida State would be outstanding. Trayvon Walker, if he were to slide for some reason, outstanding value there, but you don't need it. So why are we going to go that direction? We're going to go a completely different direction. Let's go offense. Let's attack. Let's get the best playmaker we possibly can and just open up this offense, the Scott Turner offense, as much as possible with that vertical speed. And you might have to wait a little bit to see the reward of that pick, but I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Let's hope that they make something happen. Logan, as always, it is fantastic to have you. I mean, I talk to you every day. You're my best friend. People don't know that. But I talk to you all the time. I mean, I'm sure I'll see you on COD tonight. You know.
Yeah, that's right. Call of Duty.
Yeah, Call of Duty.
All the kids play that, right?
Yeah. All of them do. Every one of them, I think, does actually. Or maybe Fortnite. I don't know. But Logan, before you take off, if you want to go ahead and plug your stuff in case nobody's following you on Instagram, which, by the way, if you're not, guys, you guys are missing out. There's some excellent breakdown stuff on there.
Yeah. So Logan_Paulsen82 on Instagram. We do a whole bunch of stuff for the Commanders now. Commanders.com got some stuff coming out on Monday, so make sure you go check that website out and see what's up there. And yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, man. Thank you, Logan. Sure. Have fun.
Have a good weekend.
Enjoy.
Thanks.
The
Take
night.
it easy, guys. Have a nice weekend. Happy Easter.
Hey, you too. All right, let me make sure that we got him out of here before we start talking about him. You know. No, yeah, Logan's always awesome. The guy gets it. And
the professor.
Yeah,
yes.
It's awesome because you can just talk to Logan and just ask him anything about any prospect, and he'll give you like a novel on him and like a scouting report. You can tell he watches a lot of film. But anyway, we haven't even got to really introduce you yet. Corey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, guys. I appreciate being back on the pod and everything. And you know, Kyle kicked me to the curb. I guess he's like, we're gonna get you on because I'm gonna have this emergency.
Yeah, it's thankfully. You know, I mean, you weren't our first choice. You weren't our second choice. You weren't our third choice. But I'm just kidding. No,
five is good. Five is good.
Yeah,
Still top five. You know, top five's not bad.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, but anyway, in just a few minutes, we are going to get started with our second mock draft. We are going to go ahead and answer a couple of fan questions first before we get started, and then we will fly through that mock draft. But up first, we have a question from the Colonel, everybody's favorite. He says, with the recent talk of Washington's interest in running backs, what does this mean? Or does this mean that Antonio Gibson's fumbling issues have him in the hot seat? I know we touched a little bit on that, but Hall, you want to go ahead and answer this one?
Yeah, I don't think it's really the hot seat. If you go back to his rookie year, I don't think he had a fumbling issue. I don't think he actually had a fumble his rookie year. Right. At all, yeah, exactly. So I think that it's just one of those years, you know, one of those wacky years that he was just dropping the ball a lot. So definitely looking for him to have a bounce back year. I definitely think obviously bringing back J.D. McKissick is going to help. And like we just talked about with Logan, you have your two, pretty much your main back and your third down guy. And hopefully we get a healthy Curtis Samuel. You could throw him in the backfield as well to be that kind of chess piece weapon. So me personally, I wouldn't really call it the hot seat, but I would see why they would want to maybe pick up a running back in the draft to kind of like spell Gibson maybe and maybe get him involved in the passing game a little bit more if that's the case.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wouldn't call it the doghouse. I just think you can never have enough talent anywhere. And who knows, this also could be a ploy to help kind of push Antonio Gibson. Are they going to bring somebody? I don't think that they're going to bring in a Kenneth Walker or Breece Hall, those people that are the top of the draft, but I do think that they'll bring somebody in. I mean, you see that they like to rotate their backs, and they kind of have their backs in a role. I mean, they have J.D. McKissick as a pass-catching guy. They have Antonio Gibson as kind of a do-everything. They're kind of missing that short yardage goal line back that's just going to plow ahead, and they can get that in this draft. But I don't think that they will address it early. But Corey, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's like a good suit, right? You can never have enough good running backs. So I think that if they are to go out there and get a guy, it will push him. I don't think he, kind of like what Hall was saying, I don't think he was in the doghouse because when fumbling became an issue, he was set down and he responded. You think about the Carolina game back in November, he fumbled that ball when they were getting a little bit of momentum, sat down a whole drive, came back and played well. But he does need help. This isn't a league where you can just throw somebody. It's not Derrick Henry, right? Like even Derrick Henry needs to be spelled at times. You can't just run an every down back anymore. You've got to have options, and you can never have enough good backs. So if you go out there and look for one, I think it's gonna, because you're gonna find a key piece. Because think about it, when he was drafted, Darius Geis and Adrian Peterson were the guys that we thought were going to be touting the rock. Yeah. So
I remember,
it's funny how things change.
I remember being upset when he was drafted because I was like, we don't have a need for it. Like, I understand he's a playmaker, but there's not a need.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, things change. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
Yep. Darius Geis
had to talk you off the ledge.
Yeah. Hall's the one who talked me off the ledge. But so we're going to go ahead and answer. I know Colonel had a second question. We're going to answer that one on Monday. We're going to answer one now from Scott Hartley, just so we can get through a couple questions from 3 people. Scott Hartley, our mate from the UK. He says,
I'm watching Top Boy right now. I got a whole bunch of like British lingo. I'm about to go crazy with it.
Yeah, oh no. You should show that to them. I think they'll be very impressed by that. Scott asked, what percentage chance do you think we take a wide receiver at 11? Corey, I'll let you answer this one first.
I think it is 45% chance. I think it's close to half, but not that much, because I think that is a key need. But if one of those defenders, especially one of those secondary guys that fall to 11, I don't see how you don't say no. But I'm a proponent of trading back, so I don't think you should have a receiver at 11, because those top 15 wide receivers outside of last year was an anomaly. You really don't get the good value out of those wide receivers.
Right, yeah, and I would agree with you probably right around there. I think we would all like to trade back, but you got to find a team that wants to do it.
Yep.
And I think it really depends on who's available. But yeah, I mean, there could be some guys that fall that are just better prospects overall, like we mentioned, like a Kyle Hamilton. And while this wide receiver class is very good, I do think that the drop off between getting a first rounder in the teens and 20s and getting a second rounder at 47, or if you acquire another second round pick, I don't think the drop off is that big. Like, you can still have them fill a role opposite Terry and they can still be successful. But yeah, I'll say right around about 45-50%. Hall, what are you going with?
Yeah, I'll go 50. I'll go 49% that they will, 51% that they won't, 51% they won't. Just because I definitely think that the smoke around Kyle Hamilton falling down to 11 is definitely real, and we definitely know that this regime, although they do want to push the ball down the field vertically on offense and they want to put weapons around Wentz, in the heart of hearts, we all know that Ron Rivera just wants to run the ball, play ball control, play defense, and kind of win those, not those squeaker games, but kind of just dominate with defense and let the offense do what it does with what they have. So I could definitely see them going Kyle Hamilton, but at the end of the day, like I said, I want them to go receiver, and I can see if they went Hamilton, or maybe, like we said, like Sauce Gardner drops to 11, which would be crazy. But I just want them to go receiver. Like you said, the drop off from those top guys to the second round guys like the Sky Moores and stuff like that,
if you're talking
I think it's too much of a gap. We need to put playmakers around on this offense.
I'm thinking like a drop off between like a Chris Olave and a George Pickens isn't that.
Right.
Like they all do different things for you, for sure. Right. So it just depends on what you want. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. But they definitely have to address receiver, and yeah, it really just depends on how they view them. But you're also right. Rivera is a throwback coach. He's a former linebacker. He's a defensive-minded coach, and sometimes that may be a little frustrating to fans. Maybe they can be stuck in the past a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna move on to our final fan question from Andy Lockhart. Do you think Kenny Pickett will be a bust in the NFL? Hall.
Ooh, I guess it would matter what your definition of bust is. Do I think he's going to come in and
throwing it back,
be like a Justin Herbert and light the league on fire from day one, and kind of be in that conversation as like one of those top 5 young quarterbacks in the league ascending to like one of those superstar statuses? No, but do I definitely think that he can come into the league, be like maybe like a between 18 to 25 type of quarterback on his best years? Of course. I definitely think that he's better than starters out there now, like Sam Darnold and guys like that. So if guys like Sam Darnold are still getting starts, Taylor Heineke was tried it out last year. I definitely think that Kenny Pickett can be a starter in this league. It just depends on, like most quarterbacks, what weapons do you put around him?
Corey?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the situation and who he's going with. I think if he goes to like Pittsburgh or if he goes to New Orleans or something, I think you've got organizations that can kind of help bring him along. But then if he goes somewhere else, like say maybe Carolina reaches for him right there in the top 10, you've got a lame duck coach down there in Matt Rule. So you really don't know what's going to happen with the future, and that can derail the development of a starting quarterback, a young starting quarterback in this league. I think he had a great senior season, but other than that, how many of y'all knew who Kenny Pickett was if you weren't watching the ACC for over the last 4 years? Nobody knew it. Well, I thought it was a country music set.
It sounds.
Yeah,
it sounds like it. Yeah.
My mama tore my ACL or something. That's his number one hit.
Hold on 1 second. Just let me make sure. Is my mic working?
Mm-hmm.
You guys can hear me? Okay, cool, because it wasn't showing up on the thing. But yeah, no, I mean, is he going to be a bust? I don't know. Really, if he gets drafted top 5, like let's say teams get quarterback hungry, like you see so many times, and overvalue some of these guys and they trade up for him. If he gets drafted, then yes, for sure. I mean, you can't, unless he becomes the next Joe Burrow, which I've seen that comparison, only not as good of a player. But he's not. I just don't think he has that in him. I think you're right. He could be definitely a good, solid starter, average, middle of the line road. But I don't think he will ever be a franchise-changing, game-altering type quarterback like we've seen come out recently. So it'll be interesting. It really depends on where he gets drafted. And like you said, so much of that is who you're drafted to anyway. I mean, if you get drafted to a franchise that doesn't know how to handle a young quarterback, then I'm sorry, you're set up for failure. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead
one of those very well. I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like we're one of those franchises that has.
Who said that?
That was Kyle. Kyle hopped in here. But we are going to go ahead and get started with our second mock draft. And just so you guys know, before we start this mock draft, we did do things. We tried to not keep all the picks the same because sometimes that can get a little boring and repetitive. So if you see some picks and you're like, guys, that guy's not going to go there, just know we just tried to change it up from last time. I know that there's some people that would make sense at some spots, but we wanted to be different, and you can't fault us for that. So Kyle had the first pick, and we're going to try to go through this within the next 25 minutes. But so it goes Kyle, Hall, Corey, and then we had the fans, and then old dad. So I'll start off. I will read Kyle's. Kyle has the Jacksonville Jaguars with pick 1, going offensive tackle Evan Neal. And Evan Neal, this is something I would like Jacksonville to do. I think that you got to protect Trevor Lawrence. I know that they just tagged Cam Robinson, and they built up their O-line, but I think that should be first and foremost. That should be the most important thing. But I get why reports are that they want to go edge rusher. But still, I mean, you can't really go wrong with Evan Neal. As versatile as he is, he's played guard, he's played right tackle, he's played left tackle. He's just a freak of nature. You see that guy, and you're like, this guy weighs how much? And he's just solid muscle like that, like zero fat on the guy's body. There's some, But anyway, I love that pick for them. Hall, you have the second pick, the Detroit Lions.
Yes, the Detroit Lions are going to take wide receiver Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. Obviously, like we said before, is number 2 high for Garrett Wilson? Some could say yes, but some could say that he could be that, like we were talking about, between him and Jamison Williams, could be the best receivers in this class. And everyone's projecting that if there is like a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson or a Julio Jones in this draft, it is going to be Garrett Wilson. And going towards a heavily offensive league, again, you can never have too many weapons. You're setting Jared Goff up with a premium weapon on the outside. And if they decide to move on from Jared Goff, which they probably will at some point, whoever the next quarterback is has a number 1 wide receiver ready to go, already locked in the offense and ready to make plays for them.
Right, yeah. Having him opposite Amon-Ra St. Brown, who really came on towards the second half of last season, I think would be huge. And you're right. I've seen some mock a wide receiver there. I mean, PFF for the longest time was mocking Drake London. So I guess, like you said, it really just comes down to who you feel is the number 1 wide receiver, who you feel fits best. Up next, we have Corey with the Houston Texans. What do you got there, Corey?
So homeless beard Lovie Smith needs to rebuild that defense. I go up to Ann Arbor, and I get Aiden Hutchinson. I think it's just part of building that defense that struggled in 2020, 2021. They gave up a lot of points. So you're trying to rebuild that. And I think starting right here with this young man, I think that's going to be a good spot for the Texans and Lovie Smith going forward and, trying to get back into the thick of it in the AFC South.
Yeah, and the Texans are one of those teams where they have so many needs that they can't go wrong. And this I mean, Aiden Hutchinson seems to be the consensus number 1 pick right now. He's definitely top 2 in just about every mock draft. So I think this would be absolutely ideal if they could get him at number 3. So
He also looks like J.J. Watt, so they got that going.
He does, right? And he's compared to a Bosa. You're both Bosas, so he's just a little bit bigger, a little bit more stiff than the Bosas, I'd say, but he's still fantastic pass rusher. You can't go wrong with that in today's NFL. So at number 4 for the fan pick, Eddie, and we apologize, guys, real fast for the fan picks. We're not going to have the videos this episode. Maybe we'll end up posting them.
Blame it on Kyle.
Yeah, blame it all on Kyle. Well, maybe we'll end up posting it on the Instagram or Twitter, just so we can get your guys' videos out there, because I know you guys went through a lot of trouble. But at number 4, Eddie, this is another surprise. The New York Jets with a huge need. Chris Olave, 2 Ohio State wide receivers in the top 5. I think that's incredible. We know that the Jets have a big need at wide receiver, and I really think that they could. They're going to take a wide receiver at some point in this draft. If they do it with the 4th pick, that would be very interesting. But Zach Wilson needs targets, man. You want to get the most that you can out of him. Corey, how do you feel about that pick?
It's high. It's high. It is. I mean, I think I don't even think Snoop's that high, but that's a high pick, man. For Olave, I don't know. In senses it makes sense, but
right. This pick is the equivalent of turning down the radio when you hear a cop siren in the back of a rap song. Like, it's that high. It's very high. And it's just like, oh no, there it is. There it is.
I didn't do it.
I didn't do it. So we're going to move on to old dad with number 5. The New York Football Giants. I think we all know that they're going to be filling the offensive line. And really, you see mock drafts, and it's either Evan Neal 1 or Evan Neal 2, and Ike Mekwonu 1, Ike Mekwonu 2 as the 2 best offensive linemen. So the Giants here are still going to get a W, and they're going to go offensive tackle / offensive guard Ike Mekwonu out of North Carolina State. They need to build that O-line. It's no secret. Andrew Thomas has been solid, so it's not guaranteed that Ekwonu would play left tackle, but, hey, it's not even guaranteed he'd play tackle at all. If he slides over to right side, struggles a little bit, as we've seen with some of these offensive linemen as of late. He could just slide right in to play either guard position. I mean, the guy's a mauler. I don't think he'll struggle at all. I think he would honestly be a better left tackle than Andrew Thomas, so I think he could go in there. And if you want to change Andrew Thomas, if he needs a jump start, I know he's a fantastic run blocker, just a big physical guy. He's really come on. You could move him to right tackle possibly, and it just gives you a lot of diversity on your offensive line. I really think that you can't go wrong with that one. So we're going to go next to Kyle's pick. Hall, do you have the picks right in front of you?
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and do this one?
So for the what are we at?
For number
6 pick, the Panthers are quarterback needy. Obviously, like we just talked about, they still have Sam Darnold on their roster and possibly PJ Walker from XFL. Who knows? But they're going to go Malik Willis at number 6. And obviously, they are needed a quarterback. Matt Rule is going to need I think that buys them a little bit of time, possibly, if Malik Willis comes out and shows that he has the upside that everyone thinks that he does. And maybe he gets another year for drafting a rookie quarterback, maybe developing him. But either way, like we just talked about with the Lions, say they do decide to blow out Matt Rule and whoever else, the next coach comes in and they're going to be ready and willing to teach a guy like Malik Willis. So Panthers, Kyle takes Malik Willis to the Panthers.
Right, yeah, and we all can't deny his talent. I mean, his talent's unbelievable. He's got a strong arm. He's got a nice, sturdy frame. He's got big joints, too. People don't talk about that. When you see these quarterbacks get injured, a lot of times the mobile ones, they tend to have skinnier knees like RG3, skinnier elbows. But Malik Willis, man, he's just compact. He's got a very similar body to Jalen Hurts, except for a bigger arm, and he's faster. So I think they came in at the exact same size, height and weight-wise. So, Corey, how do you feel about that pick? The Panthers going Malik Willis.
It reeks of desperation for me, man. It really does. That you're going to go this high when you can get them. And I mean, like I said, I don't think that Matt Rule's going to be here either which way next year. And I don't know what Ben McAdoo can do to help this guy reach his potential.
He was the offensive coordinator.
Yeah. I mean,
actually,
you got
Kyle, horrible pick. Don't say Malik Willis there. It's horrible.
You got 2 guys that look like high school art teachers, or like they're gonna wear their smocks and everything. And Matt Rule and Ben McAdoo. I mean, the man he's 40 and can't even wear a suit. So I can't get with him on my future quarterback if I'm in Carolina.
No, yeah, and if anybody's gonna blow that I mean, let's be honest, it would probably be the
Macadon'ts.
Yeah, with just when you're naming off their coaches, yeah, Matt Rule and Ben
Can't
McAdoo.
believe they went with Ben McAdoo over Jay Gruden. Crazy world.
Yeah,
Crazy
right.
world.
Jay Gruden gets hate, but the guy's a smart offensive coach. Like we can, to an
exactly.
extent, maybe not on first down. Maybe he runs it 96% of the time on first down. So anyway, Hall, we are back to you, Hall, with the 7th pick, the New York Giants' 2nd pick of the draft.
Yes, and they are going to get someone that was talked about going into before the college football season as that number 1 overall pick, possibly. He's been talked about coming out of the Pac-12 for a while now. Kayvon Thibodeau, like I said, he was one of those guys talked about going number 1, possibly. They get him at number 7. Obviously, there's questions about his motor. I hope that's true if they do draft him because I don't want to have to deal with him here in Washington. But with that being said, he's definitely an athletic freak. And when he actually puts his mind to it and wants to play, you can see the potential and all the upside that everyone talks about. So Giants go with their 2nd pick. They go Kayvon Thibodeau.
That'd be a pretty good draft for the Giants, especially like you said, Kayvon Thibodeau's ceiling's so high that the guy can do anything if he puts his mind to it. I know a lot of scouts are apparently concerned that he's worried more about his brand than football, but if it clicks and he puts it all together, watch out because this guy's going to be good. So Corey has our next pick at number 8, the Falcons, and this is one of my favorite fits in this draft.
Yeah. I thought this was a spot right here at 8. And I thought Malik Willis was going to still be there, but Kyle, I'll take that out of your hands, Corey. So I went defense. Dean Peeves, great defensive mind, build that secondary down there. Somebody who can pick off Tom Brady and these crappy quarterbacks in the South. Go with Derek Stingley Jr. Out of LSU. Take him right there, and you can relive the primetime days. Maybe his toes will still be good, unlike Deion's, but I think this will be a good fit right there in Hotlanta and to start building things on the defense side of the ball for him.
What a good young duo, too. Him and A.J. Terrell. I mean,
oh, yeah.
People forget about A.J. Terrell. If you go back and just look at his advanced statistics last year, the guy played out of his mind. I mean, he was one of the best cornerbacks in the entire NFL last year, so it makes sense. And, hey, they would be able to shut down some of these NFC South receiving corps. I mean, you talk about DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. Look out, man. That would be a fantastic pick if he hits. So I'll go with number 9, and that is Maul. Let Maul tell it with number 9. The Seattle Seahawks, and this is a huge need. Offensive tackle Charles Cross at number 9. Seattle's offensive line has been in shambles literally since 2012. Like they have not had a good offensive line Russell Wilson's entire career. It was always they need to draft offensive line here, and they would either go opt for a different position or they would pick an offensive lineman and everybody would be like, why did you take that? Why? Like you reached. And I love this. I think Charles Cross is fantastic. Of course, like every offensive tackle coming out of college, he needs to work on his run blocking a little bit, but he's got all the tools. He's big. He's nasty. He's a dancing bear. He's athletic. He's somebody who I could really see helping out Seattle a lot. So we will move on to me, old dad, number 10, the New York Jets. They reached a little bit for Chris Olave last time. Are they going to do that right here? No, they're going to get tremendous value, a player who's honestly being argued to go number 1 right now, and that is edge defender / defensive end Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. The guy is an athletic freak. What can't this guy do? I know that he hasn't produced as much as people would expect, and he was with some dominant players on that Georgia defense, some dominant athletes, but the guy has unlimited potential, and he's one of those guys, too, where if it clicks with him, like there's not many edge defenders in the NFL that are as athletic as Trayvon Walker. So, hey, they get a pass rusher, they get a pass catcher, and the Jets are feeling pretty good about themselves. So we're going to move on to Kyle. Cord, do you have the picks right here in front of you?
Yep, I have it right here.
Okay, you want to go? I'll let you announce this one. You want to go with Kyle's pick for the Washington Commanders at number 11?
Can I get the booze for Roger Goodell? There you go. And with pick 11, our Washington Commanders take Kyle Hamilton, safety, Notre Dame.
I don't think you can. I mean, look, people like Logan talked about earlier, man. This guy, I understand. People don't want to waste. I pick on a defense. We constantly pick defense early on, but. This guy is so good. You can play him anywhere. I mean, he can come in. He can fill that Buffalo nickel for Landon Collins. He can play split safety. He can play up top. He can play deep safety. I know that some people say that they don't think he's twitchy enough. He's not fast enough. But if you watch his tape, man, that guy covers ground, and he's very good defender. And think about what that'll open up behind this defensive line. I mean, he's going to be wreaking havoc behind this defensive line, and it'll help Cam Curl and all these guys out. And I think it's a fantastic pick. And yeah, obviously wide receiver is probably a bigger need, but luckily this is a deep year for wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't be mad at the pick at the end of the day. Like we talked about, he's a crazy athlete. Everyone talks about the 40 speed,
but he still had a RAS score over 9 despite his 40. So think about that. And 6'4" with like a 40-inch vertical.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot who brought it up on Twitter, but everyone's been talking about the best ball hawk safety ever to play the game. Ed Reed ran like a 4.7 or something crazy like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's like even like I think someone said like the best. Micah Hyde is the best in the league right now. He ran like a 4.6, 4.7, something crazy like that. So speed is not equivalent. Straight ahead speed is not equivalent to game speed. So can't argue the pick there. My only argument would be, in a pass-heavy league and an offensive league, yes, you need defenders to stop the pass. But if you ain't got anyone to pass the ball to, how are you going to score points to win the game?
Right.
But, again, at the end of the day, I love Kyle Hamilton. That'd be a great pick.
Right. Yeah, so now that I see that we just got past Washington's pick, and we're cruising right along here pretty slow. We would be getting past and our lights flashed at us if we were on the highway. So we're going to speed this up a little bit. But, Hall, we're going to move to you with number 12, Minnesota.
Yes. While Kyle Hamilton is on the stage hugging Goodell, you would literally see Minnesota running to the podium with their card in the background, because the blue chip guy that Logan Paulsen talked about earlier is still on the board. I'm actually mad that Kyle didn't pick Sauce Gardner here over Kyle Hamilton. They're taking Ahmad Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati, probably the best cornerback and maybe even the best defender in the draft at number, 12?
12, yeah. 12. I love that pick. I'm a huge Sauce guy. On pizza.
I like Sauce too.
Yeah, and I like my cornerbacks like that as well. Corey, you have pick number 13. Who are you going with?
Yeah, I went with Trent McDuffie. I think still building that defense out there in Houston, that's going to be part of it. And, that's going to give him a good cornerback. He can learn from one of our former favorites in Jimmy Moreland out there. So I think Trent McDuffie would find a nice home down there in Houston.
Yeah, and I mean, you can make the argument. I mean, from a versatility standpoint, you could make the argument. People don't think about it, but he may be the most complete all-around cornerback in this draft. He can play inside, he can play outside. So I like that pick, and they get 2 stud defenders for Lovie Smith's new squad down there. So we're going to go with the fan pick, number 14, the Ravens. We're just going 3 corners in a row. We're going Andrew Booth. He's very raw, but this guy is – we've had a couple people on here who have said that Andrew Booth probably plays the ball better than any cornerback in this draft, and he's still learning. He's somebody who can come along, but on that defense with those corners already around him, I mean, the rich get richer right there. That is a fantastic pick for Baltimore. So I had the Philadelphia Eagles selection, and this one hurts. Jalen Hurts. We're going to go with Jamison Williams at 15 to the Philadelphia Eagles. I know they have a need at corner. All the first-round corners are basically off the board right here. They have a need at linebacker, but they're going to get a big play threat. And that Alabama trio, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, now Jamison Williams. That would be, that's a lot of speed. Those are some pretty good pieces with some high potential right there on that offense. And it all comes down to Jalen Hurts. If that's the scenario, he'll have no more excuses. So now we're going to go into 16. Kyle for the Saints. Kyle gave them Drake London, somebody who I think Drake London is a Michael Thomas and a Mike Evans body. He plays inside. He can run the slant. He's going to catch the ball. And he's got upside. And I love that for them. Love that for him. That's a fantastic haul. We're going to move on to you, number 17, the Chargers.
Yes, they need a right tackle, so they get Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa, I want to say he's from. Yeah, Northern Iowa, and yeah, like I said, he's one of the top linemen in the draft, and definitely feels the need for them to protect their franchise quarterback, Justin Herbert.
Right, yeah, don't have many needs. That's a pretty glaring need that they have there at right tackle. So, Corey, moving on to you, number 18, the Philadelphia Eagles' second pick.
A guy who they thought was going to go in the top 10 out of Utah. Had to go with Devin Lloyd here. I think a linebacker for Philadelphia. I think that would do good things for them. Play a little bit more bully ball, especially if they want to take that next level in the NFC East and take the division, take it away from Dallas. I think, and the linebacker there, he's older, so You may have somebody who's more pro ready to go and chomp at the bit here. So that's why I went with Devin Lloyd for the Eagles.
I love that. It's a need, and Devin Lloyd, Eagles know firsthand how good Micah Parsons was. Devin Lloyd is a less athletic Micah Parsons, but he does everything. He can cover, he can man cover, he can cover in zone, he can cover underneath, he can rush the passer. There's times where he didn't just come in on blitzes. He was actually down in a 3-point stance getting ready to rush. With his hand in the dirt. So that would be another dangerous pick right there. So I love that for them. Unfortunately, I'm going to go with number 19, the fan pick, Tony Shivers, great fan and friend of the show, with the Saints' second pick. Offensive tackle, Bernard Raymond. He's another guy, and it's the Saints need an offensive tackle bad after losing Terron Armstead. Now, they get a very aggressive guy who's still growing. He's from overseas, but he's somebody who can really step in there and hopefully become their offensive tackle of the future, left tackle of the future, because they got another good bookend over there on the right side in Ramchick. So we are going to go with me, 20, the Steelers, old Whopper Jr. hands himself, Kenny Pickett. Smallest hands in the draft, biggest heart. You love him. No, I like Kenny Pickett. He's a nice guy. But he would go into a perfect scenario in Pittsburgh. I mean, you talk about a franchise that's patient with young quarterbacks and coaches. It seems like they always have the same coach quarterback throughout. Like, they've had 2 coaches in my entire lifetime, like Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin. Like, it's unreal. But so, hey, they get their quarterback. He's from right down the street. He went to Pitt. So next we're going to do Kyle's pick. Corey, you want to go ahead and do Kyle's pick at number 21?
All right. At 21, one of my favorite guys he's got for the New England Patriots, Nakobe Dean, linebacker.
Yeah, it's another fantastic pick. He just seems like a Bill Belichick player to me.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
We're going to move on to Hall with the 22nd pick, the Packers.
Yes, obviously they they traded away Devontae Adams and they lost Marcus Valdez-Scantling to the Chiefs. Need to replenish the wide receiver room to go with Alan Lazard. They take another speed guy, great route runner from Penn State, Jahan Dotson.
Yeah. Hey, and that could come as a shock, but like we said, John Dotson, these receiver rankings, they're kind of becoming all over the place. It really just depends on what you want. I think that would make a lot of sense for Green Bay. Corey, where are you going with number 23 to the Cardinals?
I went offensive line to protect little Yoda and maybe his contract negotiations. I went with Tyler Lindenbaum, the guard there.
Center,
center.
From Iowa.
Some people would argue there was an argument before he came in and measured a little bit small, but that he had some of the best tape in the entire draft at his respective position. So they're getting a stud. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to pan out. He's one of those only players in this draft where I'm like, Linderbaum's going to be good. So shout out to the Cardinals. Shout out to their families. We're going to go number 24, Mike Puckett, the Cowboys. Boo, they get some offensive line help. Mike Puckett gave them Kenyon Green, offensive guard from Texas A&M. Look, it makes a lot of sense. They just lost 2 offensive linemen in Lael Collins and Connor Williams. So they need help. Their offensive line struggled last year anyway. I know there was a lot of injuries, but what was once a great offensive line is getting older, man, and they need some fresh blood. They get somebody from right down the street at Texas A&M. Unfortunately, that's a great pick. I'm going to go with number 25, the Bills. Probably they're another team that can literally do anything, it seems like, but one of their biggest needs seems to be at cornerback. Opposite Tre'Davious White, they're going to go Kaiir Elam, somebody who Washington just recently brought in on a top 30 visit, and they get their guy. Look, the Bills have everything. It seems like they're shooting for the stars, just like the Chargers. They're going to go all in and try to get a Super Bowl while they can, and I love it. They get a good need and a very good player who's right around there in terms of rankings. So we're going to go Hall. You want to do Kyle's pick at number 26?
Yeah. For the Titans, pick number 26. I definitely think this is actually a great fit, great pick for them. They go opposite of A.J. Brown. They get another big body guy after losing Julio Jones. They get Treylon Burks, who obviously coming in was a guy that had a lot of pre-draft hype, kind of could do it all, come out the backfield. Not really good at separation, but again, Titans need a wide receiver opposite of A.J. Brown, and I think Treylon Burks would be a perfect fit for them.
Imagine being in a secondary and trying to tackle Treylon Burks and A.J. Brown.
And then have Derrick Henry coming barreling down at you as well.
That is a big physical offense. So, Hall, we'll stick it with you with the Bucks at number 27.
Yes, the Bucks. Again, that's a team that they have some needs, but I definitely feel with Tom Brady coming back, they're going to try to work it out and make some guys fit under the salary cap like they've been doing for the past 2 years. So they get a young guy that Logan Paulsen talked about it earlier that would be a great just gap eater, middle of the defense guy, Jordan Davis out of Georgia.
Yeah, surprised that he's still there. Great pick.
Yeah.
Love that for them. Corey, we'll move on to you with the Packers' second selection.
Yep, I know they went out and got a wide receiver earlier this week, but I think you got to go George Pickens out of Georgia. A lot of people were talking about him being one of the top wide receivers, could be one of the steals of the draft. I think he did pair well, learn from Aaron Rodgers, because, I mean, he really doesn't have anybody to throw to be honest with you, if we're being for real.
He's lost two of his best wide receivers, and this is I love the difference, the two different types of players that they took, and Jahan Dotson, who's more of the shorter, speedy types, and then you have George Pickens, who's another speedy guy, but he's a lot bigger, he's a lot more physical, and I just love the clashing of styles there because it gives Aaron Rodgers really a bunch of different options. So next, I'm going to go with DMVST at number 29 for the Chiefs, Christian Watson. And, hey, look, if anybody can utilize Christian Watson and his freak physical nature and his abilities that are almost superhuman at this point, it's Patrick Mahomes. And, I mean, he's got big shoes to fill.
Reed.
Yeah, and Andy Reid, right. He's got big shoes to fill with Tyreek Hill leaving. But Andy Reid's going to figure out a way to use Christian Watson to his strengths. And I love that pick for them. And then they go back-to-back at pick 30. I have them filling their other biggest need, which is a cornerback/safety. They could go either way after losing Tyrann Mathieu. Daxton Hill, who's a guy who can play safety. He can come up, he can play corner. And I just think it's a good pick, and they really knocked it out of the park, I think, with these first two picks. That I'm very impressed with the Chiefs, and by all of us for picking this for the Chiefs, you know what I'm saying? But then we're going to go to Kyle, who did the Bengals pick, since Hall's doing the last pick. Corey, you want to do number 31?
I don't know who he picked there. I don't have those last picks. I don't have that pick.
So the Cincinnati Bengals, Kyle selected Kyler Gordon. So look, Cincinnati came in with their offensive line needing a complete overhaul. They did that in free agency. I'm sure they would love Linderbaum to fall to him here, but they go out. They could definitely take a corner here. In reality, I think that those are got to be the two positions they're looking at. Getting Kyler Gordon, who's really in that next tier corners, but right there at 31, I think could make a lot of sense. And hey, Cincinnati's, man, they're trying to get back to a Super Bowl. It's going to be a big hill to climb, but hey, they can do it. Oh, I wouldn't count anything out with old Joey B back there. And Hall, who are you going to finish this thing off with the Lions?
Let me just say that the Lions should hire me as a GM because this is a great pick at number 32. It ties into the second pick that they had with Garrett Wilson overall. Yeah. And they jump up and they take Desmond Ridder at number 32. To get the fifth-year option with him, kind of like the Lamar Jackson factor in there. And Desmond Ridder's been a guy that's been rising up since the Senior Bowl. He's been killing all the pre-draft stuff, all the meetings he's been killing it in. And I definitely think that he can definitely be a late-round pick for the Lions. And, again, if Jared Goff doesn't pan out, you have your number one receiver and you have your future quarterback already lined up. Lions are set up for success in a NFC North that honestly could be wide open once Aaron Rodgers leaves. So,
right.
Lions, hire me. That's all I'm saying.
And Desmond Ridder, I've been hearing a lot of stuff recently from different scouts and GMs. They think he's a surefire first-round pick. They think that some people think that he's the best quarterback in this draft. I wouldn't be surprised if, honestly, if you do see Desmond Ridder, a team who's going to take a flyer on a quarterback, if they do take it a little even higher than that. And just because quarterback's such an important position, if you really think this guy is the guy and you got to have a quarterback, hey, don't be completely shocked if something like that happens. So, all right, that'll wrap up mock draft number 2, everybody. I apologize for this week being a little bit different. You know, Monday's episode was a little hard after the news of Dwayne Haskins, and then we come right back, and, you know, the Podfather's not here. But luckily, you guys got old dad, and it was a little different. But it is what it is. You know, hey, I can't help it that you guys like this show better, this style, but anyway, Corey, thank you again for joining us. You're always fantastic.
Appreciate you, fellas.
Yeah, I know it was last minute for us to be like, hey, by the way, you want to come in here and do the entire thing with us? But you did it. Shout out to you. Shout out to your family. You want to tell the people where they can find you?
Oh, yeah, you can find me on the Warpath on YouTube at Sanchez405 on all social media platforms. And, yeah, come on there. Got a little sarcasm, little fun things. Always some kind of joke on there. So.
One of the best follows and one of the best people to have on podcasts and your show. Corey, you're just fantastic at everything that you do. We can't thank you enough. So as we are signing off here, we are going to be back here on Monday with another full episode. So please make sure that you guys check that out. join our Discord, comment, ask us questions, ask Hall what he had for breakfast this morning if you feel free, if you want to. And when you're on YouTube, go ahead, type some comments. You know, leave us comments.
I don't even know.
Let us know what you thought of the show.
I had some taquitos from 7-Eleven, actually.
Ooh,
that's a
I miss 7-Eleven.
hearty breakfast.
Yeah,
that is good
I
for
know.
you. Yeah.
Breakfast of champions right there.
Yeah, you had to have a tough day with your stomach. Yeah. But
Not yet, but soon.
Comment on the YouTube video, guys. Let us know what you think will happen at number 11. Who you think the Commanders are really eyeing? If you think that Chris Olave was taken too high at number 4, if you think that, let us know. If you think that, hey, it wasn't high enough, then let us know that as well. But anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to sign this off. I'm Mike.
I'm Hall.
I'm Sanchez.
He is Sanchez. Yes, he is. Not Mark Sanchez. The Sanchez.
Oh.
But all right, everybody, we will see you guys on Monday. Please have a good weekend. Be safe, and peace and love, and shout out to your guys' families.
Peace.
Oops, hold up. Got to figure out how to stop recording first.